Hey guys, it's WhytManga here with a tutorial on how to create a an action scene in manga or comics. But this is definitely going to be more manga than comics, because At Heart did the same thing, but there are differences. For those of you who don't know me, I am the creator of PAPERBAK, the series and the action series, and on Saturday AM, serialized on Saturday AM. Saturday AM is a Shonen Action manga magazine with a $5 subscription for a whole year, with interviews, cool stuff, other comics, and etc. I'll leave details to what Saturday AM is, to the magazine, the website, and stuff like that, so you guys can go check it out. And you guys can also go read a sample of the magazine to see if to kind of know if you want to, like, at least if you want to buy a subscription, you have an idea of what the magazine looks like and stuff like that, and it's free on the site. You can also read free archive chapters, full chapters, on the website as well. So yeah, let's go straight into this tutorial, and I'm going to show you guys how I come up with action scenes and stuff like that. Basically, when one of the things I do before I jump into pages like this, I normally have the page laid out in a storyboard, and the storyboard, now that's also another video, but for the most part, I'm sure some of you have an idea of what a storyboard is. It's just basically a blueprint of how the page is going to look. So I already have a storyboard or a thumbnail of how this panel is going to look before I actually jump in and start sketching. So you have, a little thumbnail where you can play with it and make sure it looks cool there. You can, bring it up to a bigger scale and make it even cooler. So there was a storyboard for this panel before I even jumped into this. First off, you have to have correct, for the most part, depends on the style you're working with, but for the most part you want really good anatomy. And the way I go about it, especially if it's going to be complicated with a lot of foreshortening and whatever, I like to go in really simple, and then after I'm done and know where his hand is supposed to be and stuff like that is going to go, then after that I go into more details. Now I'm not going to go into a tutorial on anatomy, because I'll save that for another tutorial. I want to focus solely on just the tips and tricks and things you need to keep in mind when you're creating scenes like this. Powerful scenes where there's focus on the character. It's a powerful scene, maybe it's revealing something, or just a cool scene in manga, cool action scene. Not too much action going on right here. It's also, like the last video, is more like a confrontation. But it's powerful in the sense that it's revealing something, or a character is being introduced, or there's a cliffhanger or something like that. So I'm just gonna go on tips and tricks and things I think about when doing stuff like this. Before we go in, the character I'm drawing here is Sanos. For some of you who have read my comic know who the character is, and could even tell before I even drew, because I haven't I'm just putting his face in right now, but most of you already know who the character is. And this is a scene from the latest chapter of PAPERBAK, which is chapter 5, Memento, and it was released the last Saturday, on Saturday AM. Those who have a subscription, have already read it and seen the scene, so I think it's pretty cool for you guys to see, the behind the scenes stuff. So let's get into it. The things I keep in mind when I'm doing scenes like this is the interaction with the background. Now, what does that mean? Now, sometimes, it depends. If the character is in a place where the background is, everywhere's all neat and everywhere's clean, and he's not really doing anything, there's really not much that's going to be going on in the background. But for a scene like this, where it's kind of taking place in a somewhere that's kind of like a ruins, so there's going to be, everywhere's kind of dirty, there's dust in the air, there's breeze blowing, because the character is kind of like he just got a boulder just got thrown at him, and he kind of breaks it with his punch. So there's a lot of air from the boulder, a lot of dust, a lot of particles that are flying from the boulder that are going to be in the air. Cool things to keep in mind would be the breeze, so you can see his hair flowing around, the clothes. I think adding all these give the scene an extra touch that just makes everything a whole lot more epic, if you will. Another thing I do is sound effects, and the sound effects that are used here, sometimes you have to be sound effects are tricky, especially if it's English. Sound effects here, a little tricky, because the sound effects that are used are the sounds that cover his power. And what his power is, I will not spoil. You know, allow people who haven't read it to go read it. And once you do, even just in the first chapter, you know what his powers are. Anyways, it's more, the sound effects is more like the sound effect for his power, and so that's why it's there. Sometimes you put sound effects for basically sound. It's really straightforward, but you don't want to overdo it. Another thing people do is putting Japanese sound effects. Only do, at least for me personally, I don't think I'll ever do Japanese sound effects. First of all, because I don't know how to speak Japanese. Some people put the Japanese sound effects when it doesn't, they don't even know what it means. I don't advise that. But if you do, and maybe you're Japanese and that's how you want it, then that's fine. But for me, I'm going to be doing English sound effects, or at least English sound effects with English words, because at the end of the day, sound effects don't really mean anything, like like pow and whatever. But it's just to kind of give the reader an idea of what things sound like. So sometimes I use just exclamation marks, allowing the reader to come up with their own sound, and I just emphasize on how loud it's going to be. But sometimes I define it, and in this case I do, and that's this is sound effects for his background. So I focus on sound effects. I focus on having a dynamic angle. So the character here there's a lot of foreshortening. It's almost like perspective of the body, and just to make things interesting. I know you don't want to have a scene, especially a powerful scene like this, have the scene all simple and very two-dimensional and straightforward. You want to have a really cool angle, and if you don't want at least cool angle, you can tilt the camera and have some kind of foreshortening just to make things interesting. You also want to practice on your anatomy. Like I said, I will not go into things like anatomy in this video, but I will go over it in other videos. For this video, I'm just going to focus on the tips and things that I think about when I'm creating scenes like this. Okay, so like I said, when I'm doing the character, I like to make things simple. Then after I go in with details, apart from the sound effects and interaction with the background, like I said, interaction with the background, he punches a boulder, so the boulder is particles of a boulder in the air. I haven't drawn those yet, but there's dust. They're in a dirty place, an old place, almost like a ruin. So there's going to be smoke on the floor. He's going to be standing on the smoke, so I haven't gotten to that yet. But if your character is standing on the smoke, generally you wouldn't see the whole. You wouldn't see first of all, in this scene, you're not even going to see the full body anyways, because it's going to get cut off. But he's standing on smoke, so that's even covering it. So even if he was going to, it's not going to show. And generally, when it's under smoke, it's really just going to form like a silhouette. And the parts of the silhouette, I generally just shade, and you can see what I just did there. Just a quick shade, and the smoke itself will have a shade. There'll be particles in the air. That's what I'm doing here. And to give this scene power, really what happened in the previous panel, once he punches the boulder, there's smoke everywhere, and so you don't even really know he's there. And it's supposed to build up to this panel, and that's why this panel is much more bigger than the last. And this is just going to it's almost like a revealing panel, so that's why it's big. So you want a lot of space. So we draw the dust, the particles. Eventually I'm going to draw focus lines, just to focus on the character. So what focus lines are they're lines that they all point to the same spot, and they don't have the same distance. Well, you could do lines that have the same distance between them, but generally you would want the lines to vary in distance between them. And the lines generally will start off thick. But the closer they are to the character, they will fade. So when I start drawing that, I'll explain what I'm doing. So right now I'm still drawing the dust from the floor. It's kind of clearing up. In the previous panel, there was a whole lot more of it covering the character, so you can't really tell who the character is at the time. Obviously you have an idea, because I'm going to reveal it in like 2 seconds anyway. But it's kind of clearing up, and here this is the panel revealing everything. More particles of the boulder that was thrown. That's it's basically destroyed now. But just particles of it. You have the smooth side, and the other side will be a little more crooked, and more particles. And that's more like residue from the arm itself, because the arm is not a glove. That's his actual arm, and part of his power. So even if you go read the chapters that are available, it still doesn't show all the powers of any character at all. So there's still a whole lot more to this character. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, the name of the character is Sano. That's if I didn't say it already. But yeah, this is Sano. And after all this, I've done that's the sound effects, and that's the text bubble. Still iffy on that. There may not be a text bubble, but generally that's how I do my text bubbles. If you want more videos on how I create my panels and my pages and stuff like that, I already have videos on that. So what I'm doing right now, this is how the focus lines look. They're all pointing to one spot, and you're all pointing to Sano to emphasize on Sano. They're not backgrounds here. Some people in their own style can draw backgrounds, especially in comics. They like doing stuff like that. But here, I want more focus on the character itself. That's why they're not too many backgrounds. But generally, you want to draw backgrounds just to give an idea of, give the reader an idea of where the character is. So here, that's the spot where everything is, where the lines will be pointing to, and you want to make sure that the lines are pointing there. Another thing to keep in mind is the lines, they shouldn't like start and stop, or should be crooked. They should start, thick and then fade at the end. Like you can see on the left, it does it correctly. But the two lines in the middle, one's crooked and one starts and stops, and it doesn't look too good. It has to start and fade in, and you make sure they're all pointing to the same spot. Again, they generally tend not to have the same amount distance between them. That's mostly all you need to know about focus lines. They're speed lines, but speed lines, the difference between speed lines and focus lines is focus lines are all pointing to the same spot, but speed lines are all parallel. At least for the most part, they're parallel, and they're all facing the same direction. So there's a quick recap. I kept in mind of the interaction with the background, sound effects, speed lines or focus line, particles, from the boulders on the floor as well, under the dust, the dust, and these are this kind of caters to this particular scene. It wouldn't be the same thing if they were fighting in a clean and new environment. There might still be a couple similar things, but it wouldn't be exactly the same thing. So for stuff like this, I advise that you study other manga, study other comics. You can use real life images for reference, and basically practice for scenes like this. This is not necessarily a fight scene. It's more like a reveal kind of thing, and it's just more revealing than a fight scene. It's just an action scene, and the character is in a cool pose. Now that's another thing you need to keep in mind. The character cannot always just be standing there. It's kind of boring if the character is just standing there. You want some cool expressions, and you want the character to be in a cool pose. Now, after all this, I'm going to ink this, scan it in, and add some tone. If you want tutorials on me inking, there's several videos on my channel, and there's also a video on me on toning on my channel as well. And there will be more tutorials on the way. So this video was basically for me a way for me to just give tips on tips on how I create pages like this and what goes through my mind when I'm creating pages like this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you stay tuned and you subscribe. So subscribe to the channel. I'll leave links to Saturday AM, like I said. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Please like the video and favorite the video for support. That's really what makes videos popular on YouTube, at least to some degree. So any form of support is appreciated. You can subscribe to Saturday AM. It's pretty cool. You see what we were working with, and we are basically starting a revolution with it. It's kind of like Shonen Jump in some ways, and it's kind of our Western anthology magazine, one of the very few that are available, and I think it's pretty cool. If you want to support PAPERBACK, which is the comic or / manga, you guys can check that out. So yeah, this is WhytManga. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. As always, I'll be coming back with more and more discussion videos and new stuff to add to the channel. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. This is WhytManga, and I'm out.